spirituality and entrepreneurship can't really be separated because you are following a calling. You're answering this calling in your heart. We all have unique gifts that we came here with. How do we take those gifts and then turn them into a viable business? And that's really what being an entrepreneur is to me. Being a true entrepreneur means that you are giving your calling, you're raising it up to the exalted place that it is. It's a calling. So you are treating it as such. It is both a gift to the world, but it's also a gift to you.
When you are living your calling, when you are giving your gifts that you just that just stem from your soul, it fuels you to give more and it literally energizes you.
It really is just a remembrance that it's that we're already whole, that we're already healed, that we are already the fullness of spirit alive in our bodies.
We have this inner deep just knowing of where we are called to be.
Know that it doesn't come from out there. And that nothing comes from out there, that it's all generating and starting from within. And so
everything we experience comes together to make us who we are.
Take the step that your intuition tells you to take.
You are the one that you've been waiting for. No need to knock open the door. Take the leap and be the dream.
Welcome to Be the Dream, where you're going to learn how to captivate audiences, build your brand, and create a thriving career doing what you love. It's time to ignite your passion and potential and be empowered to own your unique voice and take bold action. Learn how to command the stage, turn your message into a movement, and step into your dream life. Stop waiting for permission. Through inspiring interviews with incredible individuals, you're going to gain the tools and courage to become the version of yourself you've always wanted to be. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another incredible episode of the Be the Dream podcast. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled that we are going to be talking about spiritual entrepreneurship, which has got to be one of my absolute favorite topics. We are talking to Corissa St. Laurent, and she is phenomenal. She's a multi-passionate spiritual business mentor, an entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, and a podcast. She's the founder of The Everyday Mystic, a portal to inspire, support, and celebrate your true nature, your whole and complete self, and help you live a life with greater meaning, higher purpose, and true joy. She's been creating and consulting businesses for 25 years and supporting entrepreneurs in consciousness expansion and visionary leadership. She shares her wisdom and insight through The Everyday Mystic, which is a top 10% podcast, as well as through programs, events, and collaborations around the globe. Her mission is to light the path for others so that they can light up the world. And she lights up every room she walks into, and she lit up this podcast interview. And I know that you're going to find so much inspiration when you listen to this because she is so incredible. I really, really loved learning and feeling her light because combining spirituality with entrepreneurship is just everything. When you take divine, guided, aligned action, when you're trying to create your business, it helps everything you do. It takes away the forcing, pushing action and helps you just make everything fall into place and just helps you feel guided every step of the way. So I love what we talked about today. Let's dive in. You might already know this, but for the majority of people, just the idea of public speaking is scarier than death. Yet, public speaking skills have become an essential part of life. Whether you're talking to your child's teacher, volunteering in church, or you have a dream to make a difference with your voice. But if you're in flight, fight, freeze, or fawn, your brain will not work the way you want it to, and your message will be muddled. Announcing the Fearless and Free On Stage workshop. This is your chance to learn how to conquer stage fright and rid yourself of the fear that your mind will go blank as soon as someone puts you on the spot. We're going to go in depth on how to rewire your fear into excitement and energy, powerful mindset shifts to overcome anxiety, practical techniques to calm nerves instantly, the secret to authentic, engaging presence, and steps to speak with confidence and clarity. This is a free 3-day workshop happening on March 26th, 27th, and 28th at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time over Zoom. I hope to see you there. The link is in the show notes. Corissa, I am just so thrilled to talk to you today and to get to know you on a deeper level. You talk to entrepreneurs about how to enhance their businesses with mysticism and spirituality. And I think that that is just so cool. So I would love to start by getting to know how you got into this business. What really drove you to wanting to teach people from this lens?
My soul. My soul drove me to this. It's when you work in the spiritual and mystical space, it really is an answering to a calling, I believe.
Yes.
And I had this calling early on in my professional journey. And I guess it's probably even earlier than that, when I was in college and I was on a very traditional path, pre-med, going to be a doctor. And I was pulled out of that calling very, I would say, harshly, but also beautifully, and invited into a new path. And I finished my degree and just went for it. And I started studying mysticism, or continuing, I would say, my studies in mysticism. But I went more formally into studying energy work, body work, all sorts of healing work. And that really was a reflection of where I was at the time. I really needed that healing. I was a broken, very broken, misguided adolescent or my early 20s, where I was in need of a lot of healing. And I was guided to that, to both do the work, but also to go deep and do my own work. Flash
Beautiful.
forward a few years later, after I had launched a company in that space, I was pulled to and called to doing marketing and business development on a deeper level. So all of these have been calling. So even though that was a very traditional call, it was listening to a voice and a specific nudge and an intuitive hit that, oh, this company is a company I'm going to work for. I had no idea.
That knowing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it wasn't, it just came to me. I saw the sign on the side of the road and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And didn't pursue it, but they ended up pursuing me. And I got recruited by that company and into my first real, I would say, grown-up employment, because I had been employed before, but I was an entrepreneur for most of my life. And this was my first real grown-up corporate career. And I spent 8 years. It was awesome. It was lovely. But it was, it had its time and space in my life. And I was happy to go back to full-time entrepreneurship after that.
Amazing. So I'm just loving this whole story, but I want to backpedal for a moment and deep dive into that moment where you had spent all of this time studying the traditional route and going into, our world teaches us that you study, you were pre-med, you were doing all of the things that you're supposed to do and doing these, let's call them tangible studies of the things you're supposed to do. And then you had this moment where you were like, this is not the right path. And it takes a lot of courage to transition into a spiritual, business out of the way that everyone seems to tell us that we're supposed to be doing. So I'd love to dive into that moment and what it took for you to leave the, prescribed path.
It took dragging me kicking and screaming, honestly, because there were so many nudges, so many, opportunities to have made this decision earlier on that I didn't listen to, because I was very much programmed into doing the right thing, following this path. Also, I made a decision to be a doctor. So it was like, I wanted to uphold that decision too. And I felt like I would be judged if I didn't go through with that. So there's all sorts of programs that I was fighting against. And literally it was just me fighting against my soul mission, fighting against my real purpose here on this planet, and fighting myself that was a battle, and I had battle scars from it.
Yeah.
It was a battle, and finally my soul won. But it took, even prior to me deciding this, what really catalyzed this and kicked this off was an accident that I had when I was 16 years old. And I had at that point decided I was going to be a doctor because I was in a class in high school, an AP class that was all anatomy and physiology. And we dissected a cat, and I learned about the body. And that might sound disgusting to some people, but it fascinated me. And I was so excited about learning the inner workings of the body, at least from through the Western
Right.
lens. And I just would run to that class. I was so excited about it. And so at that age, I made that decision to be a doctor. But then I had a very serious accident, traumatic brain injury, skull fracture,
Wow.
multiple cervical injuries. And that should have been enough to maybe wake me up. It did. It woke part of me up. I had a profound moment in the hospital where God, source, the creator, spoke through me, and I was being guided in a process of my healing, as well as a process of communicating to the doctors and the staff what I wanted, what I didn't want. Don't give that to me if it's not necessary for my healing. I was questioning all these things. And this is like me, like this very scared 16-year-old, not having that voice in my life. I was asking this stuff from a different place. It was
That's
from a higher
amazing.
place. So that happened at 16. And yet, it started me on a path, absolutely. But I was still also on this very prescribed asleep path, this program of I've got to do this thing, I've got to follow this path. And then it took everything falling apart, really. And that battle that I was in with my soul, it took me getting ravaged to the point where I couldn't decide against it. And I had another awakening moment. This one was more gentle than the accident, and absolutely beautiful. And it was an invitation at that point. And I was invited into this mission, and I was held in a loving embrace of light and love. Truly, I know those words get thrown around a lot, like, oh, love and light. And I even use that in my email signature, but it's not frivolous to me. It
Yeah.
is everything. And when you truly are in that embrace of love and light that is unconditional, that is otherworldly, that is beyond our earthly understanding, it's the most profound thing that you can experience. And so I got that gift when I was 20 years old, and it changed my path. I finished my degree, but I didn't go that direction. And I was happy to have been led astray. But yeah, it wasn't easy, and it wasn't a one decision move. It was
Well, and
many decisions.
it isn't, yeah, it often isn't just like one thing that we're like, oh, okay, let me just totally shift everything. I think so often, like from the start, we know we have this inner deep, just knowing of where we are led, where we are called to be, but we have so much resistance because of what we've been taught our entire lives, what, everything is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And so we resist that true calling over and over and over again. And it takes those nudges and those sometimes very forceful nudges that take us in the direction we were always meant to go until we go, oh, I see now. I see how everything is working out in my favor, how this is the most glorious path I could ever be on. But it takes sometimes a lot to get us on that correct path.
That's right. And I am a true believer that we're always on the path, that the low points, the valleys, the ruts and the gutters and all the places we find ourselves are all, not only are they necessary, but they are just simply part of the path. And we find ourselves in those places in order to learn what lessons are in those dark places and to rediscover and reclaim aspects of ourselves that we find there. So we're led to those places to discover what we left there or what was left there in the process of our fragmentation that happens over life. So we've left all these fragments all over the place, and the path is this path of discovery that we're going and picking up those parts again and then bringing them back in, reintegrating, reuniting it all into the whole that it is. It's really just an illusion that it isn't already with us, but it feels like it isn't. And so the feeling of that reintegration is the picking up of those pieces, but it really is just a remembrance that it's that we're already whole, that we're already healed, that we are already the fullness of spirit alive in our bodies. It's just whether or not we're ready to fully live it from that place.
Yes. And those times, they actually do serve us, but then they allow us to more deeply serve the rest of humanity as we, are more fully able to help other people when they're in those moments.
Exactly. Yes, it is a gift and an honor to have gone through what you go through as a spiritual warrior to then be able to bring that back out to people, because there's nothing like being and sitting with someone who can see through your eyes and has lived through your trials and tribulations and can relate to you in that way, but then also mirror something different.
Yes. And I really firmly believe that everything we experience comes together to make us who we are. And so I imagine that all of your training in med school has informed your ability to help people in your current career.
Yes. So I didn't go to med school. It was
pre-med training.
Correct. So this was all my undergrad. And then I switched streams in my undergrad. So I finished with a completely different degree. But that training, along with my alternative energy, Eastern healing and energy work training, all of the life living really has led to the ability to be able to hold space for people who have gone through or are going through a specific set of challenges. And I also think it's just life living. It's the amount of time lived. And I wouldn't have said this, 20 years ago because I hadn't lived that life yet. But now I'm in my 50s and I can say that because I've lived that life and I've lived those years, and the wisdom that I've gained just in the amount of time that I've spent here. And also the remembrance of the times that I was here before and all the other time I've spent multidimensionally. All of that is information, and it's energetic resonance that I can bring back to people. So it's really a beautiful thing to age on this plane, because that really is, like there's that saying that youth is wasted on the young. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
And I am just a firm denier of that concept that, we are at all stages of our being, learning, experiencing exactly what we're meant to experience then. And that's phrase, means when you speak it in its intended meaning, that because you're older, you have less energy, you don't have the energy of your youth. And so therefore, F those youthful people who can't appreciate it, because now I appreciate it because I've been through it and I've learned how to appreciate it. It's like, oh yeah, go through it, go through the hard stuff, be young at heart, take care of your body, be living your passion and in your truth. And then when you're older, you can also be in a state of just like absolutely living the bounty of your youth, even
Yes.
from 50 and beyond.
Right. It's never too late to love your life right now,
Heck no.
exactly in this moment. Amazing. So you are such an incredible mystic and, spirituality informed human. And I just love that. And you teach entrepreneurship. And I just think that they are such an incredible combination because the spirituality is part of us, no matter, even if we want to ignore it, it is a core part of who we are. Talk to us about how that informs the way you teach entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship is one of the best catalysts for a spiritual journey.
I totally agree. Love it.
Right? It is, when you speak of the hero's journey or how we go out and then, face the demons, the enemies, the shadows, bring back the gifts, and which is the hero's journey is the spiritual journey. When you look at it through that lens, entrepreneurship can't be a better way of going on that journey. And it's also very practical too within, the 3D realm. So it fits both our spiritual development side of what we're doing here, but it also fills the bank account for it to be a very viable and important aspect of our 3D realm and experience here. So it so beautifully integrates all of that, which I love. Spirituality and entrepreneurship can't really be separated because what you're doing when you're an entrepreneur is you are most likely, now some entrepreneurs don't work this way, but I would say the vast majority of them do. You are following a calling. You're answering this calling in your heart or that spirit sends to you that says, you need to be, I see all those notes behind you. You need to be a musician. You've got this musical gift. Use it. Become a musician. Be a musician. Be a musician. But then life, practicalities, school, parents, society's telling you, you can't make any money being a musician, or only, this small percent of people become professional musicians. And so many of us listen to those things. And yet we may go to our graves with this thing on our heart that says, do this, you have this gift, go do it. And we all have gifts. We all have unique gifts that we came here with. How do we take those gifts and then turn them into a viable business? And that's really what being an entrepreneur is to me, is that you're taking something that might seem frivolous to some or may seem like a pipe dream to others, and you're turning it into a viable livelihood that supports you and your dreams. That's different than just choosing to do this practice or sell this service or product and then going out and doing that. That's maybe, we could look at that as running a business, or you're, a business owner. Being a true entrepreneur means that you are giving your calling you're raising it up to the exalted place that it is. It's a calling. Yes. So you are treating it as such. It is both a gift to the world, but it's also a gift to you.
Yes,
because when you start
it's life sustaining. As I say, it's life sustaining in both ways, because when you are, living your calling, when you are giving your gifts that you just that just stem from your soul, it fuels you to give more, and it literally energizes you. It literally comes and just pours out of you. But when you are doing it in exchange for money, like literally it feeds you. It literally is putting a roof over your head. It sustains life in both an energetic and a physical way. And it's this ongoing, if you can't see my hands, I'm literally like doing the circular motion. It sustains life in this circular motion that is just everything. It's just so beautiful.
It is. And, the spiritual journey is not all beautiful. There's the hard parts. There's the facing of shadow and the darkness and the demons that entrepreneurship in that journey can also take you on. And it's an opportunity to go and face those, whether it's imposter syndrome or worthiness or enoughness, facing maybe fears or limiting beliefs you have around money and earning. All of those things can be explored on this journey. So it's a fun, practical, and beautiful way to spiritualize in this lifetime. And like you said, does both, brings those two things together where we get to develop our self and our spirit, but then also feed ourselves and our family.
Oh, I love it so much. Tell us about your business and specifically how you help people with this, with your podcast and with your business and your programs.
My company's called the Everyday Mystic, and it really is a description of me as well as who I think we all are, which is that we all have our divine nature to come home to. It's whether or not we choose to do that. And we can do that by integrating all of that into our everyday life. Our everyday life is life. That's the life we're meant to live here. Let's make every day and the mundane everyday things mystical. And it doesn't need to be that you go and, fill your house with crystals and, change everything up. It's a mindset. It's a set of practices. It's a way of interacting with the world and interacting with all elements of the world. So when it comes to business, I have a strong background, 25-year background in entrepreneurship, a very strong, 20 plus year background working in marketing and business development, both for myself and my companies, as well as larger companies, Google being the largest of down to, the smallest mom and pop business. So I've gained a lot in the real world in how businesses work and how entrepreneurship works as a business owner. Like I said, very different than just, hanging up your shingle and trying to sell something. There's energetics around it, and there's a ways and means of going about it that can actually get us to a point of where, okay, we can live this life. We don't have to side hustle it and side gig it. We're actually living a full blown, at whatever level you want to live it at, place as an entrepreneur. So I've created a program. My company has created this program. So it's not just me, it's myself and 4 other incredible mentors guiding people on a 3-month journey of entrepreneurship. So that's our main signature program that we offer. For those interested in mysticism, interested in just how this can impact and make your everyday life better, my podcast is called The Everyday Mystic. You can tune into that every week, and I would love to have you on to talk about
amazing
you do.
Yeah. I adore this topic so much. So for somebody who is just diving into this mysticism journey, can you give us like one actionable step? How do you start becoming more spiritual? If you're like, I don't consider, if somebody doesn't consider themselves spiritual and they're fully business, how do they begin?
Know that it doesn't come from out there. And that nothing comes from out there, that it's all generating and starting from within. And so that's where we turn. However, you can turn within, if that is meditation, if that's self-talk, if that's pulling out a journal or a canvas and a sketchbook and just starting to free flow with writing or scribbling or drawing, start to connect to that inner aspect of ourselves, the inner aspect of ourself, our true being is alive in there. It's just about reconnecting that connection. The connection is there. It's about remembering the connection is there. It's about cleaning off all of the crap and the plaque and the barriers that have prevented you from seeing that connection. So whatever step you might need to take to do that, some people need to clear out some things first before they can feel and hear and connect back in. Some people, it's just about turning in and closing their eyes and listening. So the best advice I can tell you is to take the step that your intuition tells you to take. Because once you start to actually listen to that intuition, there's the connection. It's back. It's there. So your inner voice, your intuition is going to tell you what that step is. It's going to be signing up for this program, or it's going to be going and buying that journal, or it's going to be paying attention to your dreams, or you'll know because you're going to tell yourself what it is. I can't tell you what that step is for you, but I promise you, if you listen to that little voice, that little step, that little nudge, everything is just going to start to open up and start to flow for you in that direction.
Amazing. Amazing. That was so incredible. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Carolee. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Be the Dream podcast. In the show notes, you're going to find links to be a guest on the show, the free Jumpstart Journal, and a place to book your free 15-minute one-on-one coaching call where I will guide you on how to step more fully into your dream. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend. Let them know that you're thinking about them, and let's share inspiration with as many people as we can. We could all use a little more motivation. See you next time, and until then, remember to be the dream.